Welcome back to the verdict. Our election studios coming to you live from our headquarters in Lagos. Don't forget that you can go ahead and keep those images coming through to us. But now we turn our attention to election security. This is a very important component in the scheme of things. Let me introduce the panel of guests that we have here. In the studios, we've got Mr. Innocent Chukwuma, who is of the Clean Foundation. Thank you for coming on the
Ford Foundation.
I beg your pardon, Ford Foundation. Why do I keep going to Clean? Well, I like Clean too much.
6 years ago.
Yeah, Mr. Chukwuma is of the Ford Foundation. And in our studios in Abuja, we have Mr. Frank Mba, who is the Force Public Relations Officer, who joins us in our studios in Abuja. We also do have Mr. Pt.1 of the Situation Room. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us today. Mr. Chukwuma, let me start with you in Lagos. Yeah, you've been keeping tabs on this for a while now. Should we be concerned about anything?
I should say a lot of it may not actually be based on level of security preparation or lack of it. What we should be concerned about is the perception that has been built around preparation for this election, especially from the side of INEC.
Which is?
With the conduct of the off-cycle election in Osun and Ekiti State, one thought that INEC had gotten it right in terms of logistic preparation, deployment, because all the reports across the stakeholders that observed those elections gave INEC high marks. But in the build-up to this particular election, especially with the postponement of the last date on February 16, logistic preparation is now top on people's agenda. And depending on how it pans out tomorrow, if when the elections are supposed to start, the materials don't get there, and people can feed all kinds of conspiracy theories, because in the last 1 week, there's been all kinds of speculation, accusation by almost all the parties, especially the mainstream parties, APC. So a lot of it may not really be on the basis of what the police do, because with the current IG, at least the attention, that perception of being biased has gone away. The IG now has communicated effectively and people are beginning to believe it. But we should really pay attention to logistic distribution, because that would really inform whether people agree that we are ready to conduct.
Yeah, but at the moment, what's your assessment of it? Because there are those who think that, well, yes, those materials, they believe is gotten largely to the areas, the designated points where it should be.
Yeah, so people are waiting to see what happens tomorrow. So now everywhere is calm. People are giving an egg benefit of the doubt that elections will be conducted tomorrow. But what happens by 8 a.m. when the actual activity starts, and then people start testing and start sharing social media in this particular unit, materials didn't come on time, and that unit, is it in opposition stronghold or in ruling class stronghold? And then these things start, getting a life of their own. And before you know it, perceptions are formed and people start responding to them.
Okay. Mr. Nwako, if I can ask you, well, from all of these that we have heard over and over again about INEC's logistic challenges and all, would you say INEC is overwhelmed?
I think the big challenge for INEC, and this is unprecedented challenge, it hasn't happened in the past, that you have 91 political parties. For the presidential elections, you have 73 candidates on the ballot. And INEC has not had to deal in any recent history with these amount of logistics challenges. The sheer number of ballot papers, sheer number of persons on the ballot papers is what has been a problem for INEC. And I think if INEC had anticipated this well enough, then perhaps we would have been able to avoid some of this. With 73 candidates, quantifiable numbers of materials to be printed, I think it's been a challenge, and I think that INEC, we're all very sad and shocked about the postponement, but I think INEC did the right thing in postponing the elections, and we hope that the effect of that is that people feel sufficiently angry, and I think those who are angry needs to channel that into determination to vote. But I think INEC needs to do a lot more as we speak. There are still challenges challenges of materials being delivered in the wrong direction. My hope is that INEC is able to track this well ahead of voting starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow and ensure that materials are delivered in the right destinations. That's still a problem as we speak. Party officials, party agents need to confirm that result sheets, that's a critical element of the sensitive materials for the election, that result sheets are available in where they should be and within the custody or lawful custody of the officials who should have it. There were complaints from the last distribution exercise that this may not have been the case. So my hope is that INEC did in fact retrieve all of these materials, that they are in the right direction, in right custody, and have been verified as available by polling agents. I think that polling agents have a lot of responsibility. Theirs is not to go and hang around units and INEC areas, but really to ensure that they do honestly represent their parties, ensure that materials are available. If those materials are not available, they need to escalate this report to observers, to their principals, and indeed to their parties and to INEC.
Well, Mr. Wanko, with according to INEC, 23,000 or more contestants in this election, it is pointing in the direction of the fact that INEC would need all the support and all the partnership it can get from the political class as well. From what you have said now, can you confidently say indeed that INEC is getting the full cooperation of the political class as well?
Well, I think it's a lot of worry, and a worry in terms of the rhetorics of the candidates of the parties that has been on a high note in recent days. Very calming this morning, and I must commend the president for the broadcast he made this morning. It was quite calming, and I think one of the very few times that he has spoken in a very all-encompassing and presidential manner. So he must be commended for it, and I think the search for peace, the search for a calm environment for politics is what is important. Parties need to understand that elections are not a do or die, that they go and ask for people's vote, and they should accept the verdict of the people, and rather than trying to cheat and short-circuit the system. I think with the police, we're all, and Innocent Chukwuma has made the point, in a lot of ways we're quite happy with the leadership of the police at this time. I think it's a leadership that is understanding that the police is an independent institution, is not and should not be a partisan institution, and I hope that the message that is coming from the police leadership to its officers on the field is that of respect for the process. With the army, I must say we're very worried, and I must say that again, that we are very, very worried about the army. The Electoral Act is very, very clear about the role of the army. In section 29 subsection 3, they are only required to come in when requested by INEC and for the purposes of helping INEC to transport materials and provide security when needed. And I think that the language of the army needs to be very clear to its officials, that their purpose, their work is to go out when requested by INEC. They have no responsibility to carry out policing during elections, and I think the leadership of the army needs to communicate that message. The leadership of the army also needs to communicate to its personnel that unlawful orders and unlawful activities are not just subject of national jurisdiction, they are subject of international law, and they could be candidates for trial at the International Criminal Court were these issues to descend into crimes against humanity. So I do hope that the army communicates to its personnel that they have a responsibility to conduct themselves within the law, and that there are offenses in the Electoral Act. Those offenses are well defined. The punishments for them are well defined, whether it is ballot snatching or double thumb printing or underage voting. These are all offenses in the Electoral Act. They provide fines and punishment by imprisonment. The most, of course, is probably even 2 years imprisonment. They are not sentences of death, and whoever construct an interpretation of ballot box snatching to extend into a definition of being armed robbery has to understand that this is very disingenuous, and that every security official who is out there is personally liable for carrying out extrajudicial killing on the pretense that they are obeying lawful orders or indeed what would be regarded really as unlawful orders.